Alrighty, artists, what we are going to talk about today is how to edit just a regular photo that you might have on your computer. We are going to open the Photoshop app. And again, we are just going to go over a few ways to edit photos, whether it be landscapes, portraits, things like that. So instead of creating a completely new document from scratch, we can actually click open this time. And for this project, you will choose a photograph, a landscape that you would like to edit. So I am going to find the picture that I would like to edit. And I am going to edit this waterfall image that I took when I was up in Munising, Michigan. So you'll see that after I clicked open and clicked my image, it just popped up with the image on Photoshop. So what we will notice is our background is simply our picture here in our layers panel. What we are going to do today is kind of play around with the lighting and the color. One thing that we want to do though is we want to preserve the photo itself, and we want to use non-destructive ways to edit it. So in other words, we're not changing the actual picture itself. We're simply adding layers on top of the image, and those layers can always be deleted and you still have your original awesome photo in the background. So when I say non-destructive, we're not destroying the actual picture itself, we're just adding layers again. So a few ways to do that. If we look at our layers panel here, when you go down to this mini toolbar on the bottom right, you're going to see this half black, half white circle. And when you click that, you are going to see several different objects different edits that you can make on your photo. So this is adding an actual adjustment layer. So when we click one of these, you're going to notice a new layer pops up on our panel. So the first one we're going to talk about is how to kind of adjust the lighting or the color on our photograph. So we are going to click the brightness and contrast option. So if we click brightness and contrast, you'll see that new layer pops up, and you will see up here we have two areas where we can kind of use these sliders to edit our photograph. So brightness is going to affect how much light is showing through on your photo. So I'll just show you what that looks like. If I add brightness, you'll see it gets super bright. But if I think it's too bright, we can take away brightness by moving downwards, or to the left, I should say. So if I want that waterfall to pop a little bit more, I'm noticing that right now there's a lot of brightness. I can take that brightness down, and the waterfall becomes more of the focal point because that remains bright. Contrast, when we talk about contrast, that's two things that are completely different from each other, right? So if we minimize contrast, we're going to see all of these different tones kind of even out a little bit more. If we up the contrast, those brights will pop and those darks will get darker. So if we go this way, you'll see, whoa, dark areas get really dark, bright areas get super bright. If I go down here, you'll see it kind of evens out the brightness of the photo. So I am just going to have some fun and up the contrast to really make the whites of the waterfall pop out and those really light greens pop where the sun is reflecting. So I think that is just beautiful. So just a few little edits you can make in the brightness and contrast adjustment layer. Now, what you will notice down here is you see two little eyeballs next to your layers. If I want to just make it so that layer is no longer visible, I can click that eye and make it go away. So that's my original photo, and if I want it to come back and see my edit, I can click that again, and the eye should pop up so that your edit is visible. And you can see just how much of a change that is by just messing with the brightness a little bit on Photoshop. If for whatever reason I don't like what I did and I just want to start over from scratch, you can always delete a layer. So I can left click my layer and I can click delete layer, click yes if I really don't want it. Okay, now I do want it, so I'm going to go back and click edit undo because I do actually really like how I edited that. So let's move on to the next one. So now that we're done talking about brightness and contrast, what we will talk about next is how to change the hue or saturation. So if we think about hue, it's all about color. It's all about, do we have saturated colors in our photo? So what we're going to do here is go again to that little circle with the half black, half white. Right click that. And then we are going to go to hue and saturation. Now, this is where you can have a lot of fun with some different colors. Now, when you see very, very drastic edits where the color of the photo changes, this might be where that happens. So if we go up here to our properties, you'll see again, we have these little sliders here where we can really adjust the colors. And how cool is this for this waterfall image? If I wanted to use like these really dark and mysterious cool colors, I can go over here to my blues and my purples. Oh my goodness, and if we have some purple and blue, it just really changes the mood of that photograph, I feel. Once you start messing with color, wow, that brings out like the natural tones of the earth. Just how moody you can make this photo in an instant, right? So when you're playing with hue, you are playing with color on a whole new level when you start working with these. I am going to go and just make this fun and do this dark and mysterious bluish purple. I absolutely love how that looks on there. It's kind of fun. I can then, and before I go all the way that way here, I'm going to show you something. Bring that back to the middle where it originally was. If you just want to play around with the saturation that the photo already has and saturates some of those colors a little bit more in the original photo, you can bump up that saturation and it will just brighten up and really emphasize the colors that are already there. Okay, so if you don't want to mess with the colors too much, saturation is an easy way just to boost the colors you already have. Or you can take away saturation and you'll see we lose color if we go to the left. So we can create almost a black and white image, or close to, even if we stay a little bit right. So I'm going to bring that back to the middle, and then I'll show you this lightness area. If we want the entire picture to get lighter, all the way to the right. If we want it to be darker, all the way to the left. So we can play with that too. Now I'm going to go back and bring it back to that purplish blue. I just think that kind of rocks. It's way cool. And then I can play with this lightness a little bit. So do I want it lighter or do I want it more dark and mysterious? I think that's just so cool because it kind of emphasizes the water a little bit. So I am going to leave it right there. I absolutely love how that looks. It just, like I said, it can change your photo so much. And we always talk about how color can affect mood in any image, and this just completely changes the story of this photograph from an ordinary photograph to almost art, how we can work with these colors in such a unique way. So that brings me to my last point. Mostly I wanted you to experiment, number one, with the brightness of a photo, and then number two, the colors of your photo and saturation. What you'll notice is that right here on your layers panel, you'll see how the actual layer adjustment is white. So that means that if we want to take away our adjustment, we will use the opposite of white, which is black. So if we go over here to our color swatches, right now we have black up on the top, which means we can conceal or get rid of the mask if we use a coloring tool. Okay, now this is a little bit confusing until I actually show you how it works. But your layer mask is white, so when you're doing adjustment layers, and this is only with photos, right, and adjustment layers, that white means, okay, I'm adding my adjustment. If I change it to black, I can take away my adjustment here. So I am going to actually find my brush. So if I go down on my toolbar here, I'll click my brush tool. I am going to choose something that is softer. So let's see here. I wonder what size I should do. If I click this, I can change the size. That looks like an okay size. A little bit smaller, that's good. So I can change the size and then I can change the hardness. Right now it's hard. I can create, you know, a soft layer by bringing it all the way to the left. So I'm going to show you what this does. It's very interesting. Okay, so I'm on a paintbrush basically with a brush that is very soft on the edges, so it won't be such a hard, intense line. What happens when I add my brush to that photograph? What is it doing essentially? It is bringing up my original image colors. See that? So we are going to say again, our layer mask is the white part that reveals it. If we change it to black here, it will then conceal the mask. How cool is that when you're working with adjustment layers? So you have to make sure the black is on top here when you're doing this. And I can go and use my brush and drag it, click and drag, and I can reveal some of those original colors. How cool is that? Oh, do not like that there. But the green is kind of fun because green and purple work really well together, I think. So I can go in and bring back some of the natural colors. How sweet is that? So interesting. I can kind of frame my photo by doing that. Now, let's say I did this and I don't really like that change, okay? If I were to swap these by clicking this little arrow button, the white is now on top. The white, again, is my adjustment layer. If I want to put that adjustment layer back, I'm still in that hue and saturation. So if I want to bring that blue and purple back, make sure the white's on top, and it works in reverse. How cool is that? And I can get rid of anything I just made, okay? Super, super cool how that works. If I want to go back and swap again, I'm just clicking the little arrows above your color swatches. So the black again works kind of like it takes away your layer. Very, very cool kind of tool to play around with. It's almost like you're painting. All right, so I want you to experiment a little bit with all three of those things. So number one, changing the brightness. Number two, changing the saturation or the hues. Work a little bit with color and how you can change those. You can make it super extreme. It's just awesome. And then I want you to play again with that brush tool, which is over on your toolbar. Make sure you click the brush and change the size to something medium or a little bit bigger. Change the hardness so it's not 100%. You actually want to be kind of on the opposite at 0% so that you have a really soft brush. So that when you do this, it's nice and blended. I'll show you what it looks like when you don't have this soft. You have a really hard edge, which might look weird because you can but I mean, you can just create little circles almost because that brush is it's got such a hard edge. Whereas the soft edge, if I bring it down to 0 or 3%, you can't see the edges as much, right? So really, really interesting stuff. Oh, I have to undo all of those edits. Oh my goodness. All right, so I'll bring it back to where I had liked. Right about there. Now, once I've made all my edits, I am going to File, Save As, save on my computer. And I am going to save it in my digital art folder. And let's create a new folder since this is a new project. Editing photos. In my folder, I will save it as Waterfall Edit. Maybe I can add the color blue purple in there too. My name. And click Save. Oh, I can't have a slash in there apparently. All right, and if you're, again, having an editing document where you'll go back and make changes, you can change it as Photoshop.